Time for some more water. I'm getting there, though. I just got lots of more to go through. Snake was still out cold, but his radio was online. We could hear smaller explosions from the wreck of the Metal Gear, and the sound of flames greedily sucking up the leaking fluid. Snake showed no signs of coming around. A few minutes later, a sound of footsteps emerged from the general chaos. It was moving towards Snake. There was a faint murmur. "Snake, it's not over yet." It was Liquid's voice. "Snake!" I yelled into the radio, but Snake did not stir. "Isn't there any way to wake him?" I asked Richard, but he shook his head. Liquid had reached Snake's side and, to our surprise, picked up Snake's limp body. He had started to carry Snake, heading in the direction of Metal Gear's prone form. We listened, helpless. In a tense silence, it was Snake's battle. There was next to nothing we could do. Liquid had now climbed onto Metal Gear's back, where he had carelessly laid Snake down. He had apparently planned to simply wait for his adversity to regain consciousness. "So," Liquid said. Snake was still out of action. "I know you're listening. You have a radio implant in this one." It was clear that Liquid was talking to us. "You think you've pulled off Fox Die? Think again. You're never going to kill me with a thing like that. Never." The knowledge that he was already infected with the killer retrovirus made no difference to Liquid Snake. It was a force of will that commanded respect. "You have no idea how excited I am, knowing that you're still out there. Revenge is a candy I've been deprived of too many times." The hatred in Liquid's voice was chilling. "You patriots!" At that moment, Snake let out a groan. He was starting to surface. "He's almost ready. Listen, all of you. When I've settled the score with this one, I'm coming after you next. I'm going to end your miserable lives in a way that will make even the Reaper's stomach turn." "I look forward to it," Richard murmured starkly. Snake groaned again. He was apparently awake. "Still a light sleeper, huh?" Liquid said to Snake conversationally. "Liquid, you're alive? You won't get rid of me, not as long as you're breathing." "Sorry your insurrection was a bust," Snake commented. "Do you think that I'll give up my fight just because we've lost Metal Gear?" Liquid had lost none of his confidence. "Your fight?" Snake shot back. "What's your real objective here?" "To make sure that the age of warriors comes again. Warriors like us, Snake. That's Big Boss's pet delusion all over again." "No! His legacy!" Liquid exploded at Snake's words. "All throughout the Cold War, during the times of turbulence, the whole world wanted us, gave us our due. We were needed." He fell silent, as if to mourn for the days that were no more. "That's all changed. Hypocrisy and fraudulent peace are replacing warfare. There is a terrible emptiness that comes with losing an arena for your gifts, and the terror that you will become a dinosaur, no longer useful. You must know that fear better than anyone." Snake had no reply to Liquid's entreaty. I wonder whenever Liquid's words had found their mark. "The prototype nuclear warheads will provide me with the leverage to acquire my campaign funds. The funds will make more global acts of terrorism possible. Violence begets violence, and this complacent world will erupt into confusion. Violence, mistrust, and conflict will compound each other and create more hatred. And our sphere of usefulness, the ecosystem of war, will grow larger and larger. As long as human beings are around, there will always be war somewhere in the world," Snake argued. "There's no need to create more. It's a question of balance," Liquid responded in a flash. "The balance that our father fought for. And that's the only reason you need to do this? It's more than enough for me. And for you, too." "That's not the kind of thing I want. Not now, not ever." Liquid laughed at Snake's dogged refusal. "You're lying. Why do you think you're here? You've been lied to, betrayed by your own team, but you still wouldn't abandon the mission. Why? Snake could not answer. I'll tell you why, Snake continued. Because you enjoyed it. The thrills and the kills. No, that's not. Snake was struggling for words, but Liquid cut in. Are you going to deny it? You've killed dozens of my men today. But that was, as Snake faltered. Liquid laughed in contempt. Every time you delivered the kill shot, your face brightened up. No! There's no reason for you to deny your own killer instincts. That's what we were created for, after all. What we were created for? It was all the encouragement Liquid needed to reveal the details of a secret project known as Les Enfants Terribles. It was the 1970s. The U.S. had yet awoken from the nightmare of the Vietnam War when a plan was hatched by key figures in the government to artificially create the ideal soldier. The man selected to serve as the genetic template for the project was the most famous living mercenary of the time, Big Boss. Big Boss was, however, incapable of reproducing, a result of past war injuries. As a result, his body cells were harvested for a cloning attempt. In addition to the existing analog cloning protocol, the program incorporated the so-called super baby technique. The super baby technique involves carefully dividing the fertilized egg whose nucleus had been switched with that of the donor cell. The result in usually 8 zygotes, which are then implanted in a surrogate's uterus. 6 of the embryos are strategically aborted over a period of time in order to boost the growth of the remaining 2. We started out as octuplets, Liquid reflected. Octuplets. Snake was clearly taken aback. 6 of our brothers were killed so that we could be created. We've been causing death and destruction even before we breathed outside air. That left the 2 of us, 2 zygotes that shared the same DNA, but there was one more sacrifice to be made. One of the embryos was engineered to manifest the full potential of its genetic makeup, at the expense of the other one, which was purposefully regulated to the bottom of the curve. You are what you are, Solid Snake, thanks to the death and the deprivation of your brothers. Liquid surveyed the stunned Snake and smiled. But if you think that I'm the only sibling you have left, think again. What? The genome soldiers. They were bred from our father's DNA too. The only difference is that they're not analogs of him like we are. Liquid went on to tell an astounding story. The Human Genome Project, concluded late last century, the Les Enfants Terribles project, and the intensive study of Big Boss's genetic samples had led researchers to many of the secrets of the so-called soldier genes. The isolated traits for initiative, discipline, and other tactically desirable characteristics had been secretly integrated into the genetic structures of next-generation Special Forces soldiers. All those commandos you murdered on this base were your brothers. The genome soldiers, incomplete creatures, certainly forcibly grafted with a piece of Big Boss genetic sequence, but still family. They shared in the family dysfunction too. Their lives also cost someone dearly. How so? Human experiments, Liquid hissed angrily. According to Liquid, the military had secretly started treating its men with the soldier gene when the 1991 Gulf War broke out. The unexplained Gulf War syndrome among the returning personnel was apparently one of the gene therapy's unfortunate side effects. That means that those Gulf War babies born to vets are, Snake asked, stunned. Exactly, our earliest siblings. And the next generation Special Forces were the finished product? Finished? Liquid sneered. Hardly. They're defective. We all are. On a path to extinction, if you will. What did you say? You've ever heard of the law of biological asymmetry? There's a natural tendency towards left-right asymmetry. On the other hand, species that ran out of the genetic diversity and are on a path to extinction start showing complete symmetry. That's what happens to the genome soldiers and to us. Snake stared at Liquid in bleak shock. Every one of us is dying on a genetic level. The question is when the decline will start. That's why I need our father's body, to get some answers. You expect me to believe, Snake asked, that you demand Big Boss's body so that you could save yourself from the genome soldiers? Siblings start out life competing, but they always band together against outside threats. Why do you think that is? Liquid waited for Snake to respond, but the latter said nothing. It's because they share your genes, and by helping them, the chances of your genes making it to the next generation are bettered. Natural selection favors neopotistic species. The instinct to help our own kind is an inherited trait. Your DNA is ordering you to help these genome commandos, Snake said skeptically, but Liquid agreed in a reverential tone. No one can go against their genetic destiny. We were born for the sole purpose of recreating our father's DNA in its best and most ideal incarnations. I will follow my destiny and surpass it. I can break my own biological curse, and that's why I'm going to kill you, Solid Snake. He spoke quietly, but it was clear that he meant every word. He suddenly called out in a different tone. Look behind you. Meryl? Snake exclaimed. Meryl was apparently lying behind Snake. I guessed that she had been brought there before Liquid had carried Snake onto the roof. Is she alive? I wouldn't know. She was definitely breathing a few hours ago, though. She kept calling your name over and over again, Liquid said coolly. Meryl, she's a fool to fall for a man who doesn't even have a name. I do have a name. No, you don't. And no past and no future. That's the way it is for us, Liquid shouted. The only thing we have to do, we do have our instructions written in our father's genomes. Liquid, let Meryl go. After we settle things between us, we're just about out of time. Are you talking about Foxdie? No, the Pentagon. It seems that the DoD came to a decision when they heard about Metal Gear's destruction. They're not even interested in a Bonder report at this point. Ask your Shadow Campbell if you want. He likes to listen, doesn't he? Okay, quick drink. Snake raised Campbell on the radio. Colonel, can you hear me? I'm here. What's the Pentagon up to? You better tell me, Colonel. The Defense Secretary's personally taken control of the mission. He's on an AWAC heading your way. For what? An airstrike, Campbell replied bitterly. What? That's not even the bad news. A bomber just took off from the Galenda AFB. It's carrying the B-61-13 surfacing piercing missiles. Christ! Metal Gear's already been destroyed, Snake raised his voice. Doesn't the Defense Secretary know that? He knows, but because of Naomi's betrayal, he no longer has any faith in Foxdie's effectiveness. Your taking out Metal Gear means that the threat of nuclear strike has been removed, and he's free to ensure a direct and complete cover-up of the whole affair. By blowing up all the evidence and everyone who knows anything sky high with a nuclear bomb, Snake finished angrily. But Campbell's next words were unexpected. Don't worry, Snake. I'll halt the airstrike. What? It may be a technicality, but I'm still the field controller for the mission. If I call in an order to halt the strike, it should wreak enough havoc within the chain of command to buy you some time. Use it to get out of there. Richard called one of his men over and murmured an order. There was little doubt that it was for Campbell's arrest. Snake and Campbell ignorant of the room full of ears who were listening in on their exchange, were still talking. Colonel, you know what would happen to you. It's all right, Snake. But you should know something. There was a top-secret internal investigation being conducted into Foxhound these past few months. Merrill was transferred out to Shadow Moses the day of the insurrection as a hostage to ensure my cooperation. What a... Snake broke off in disgust. Now go, Snake. Are you sure about this? You'll lose everything you've worked for. I'm sure. And this way I get to keep the things that are really important. And that I would otherwise lose. Colonel. All right, I'm putting in an order to halt the strike. This is the point of no return. What the hell? Campbell gasped. It seemed that Richard's men were trying to restrain him. The only thing we could hear over the radio were gunshots and unintelligible noises. I was once again a helpless spectator of a life-or-death struggle. Mei Ling burst in abruptly, as though she had seized the microphone. Snake! Mei Ling, what happened to the Colonel? I don't believe this. Tell me what's going on. Snake, the Colonel... Mei Ling's voice was lost in the shower of static before she could reveal more. Instead, an unfamiliar male voice started to speak. This is Jim Hausman, Secretary of Defense. Roy Campbell was just relieved of duty. Let me talk to Colonel Campbell. He's been arrested for compromising national security. He'll be charged with treason. That's insane. No, it was Roy Campbell who was insane if he truly believed that he had any real say in this mission. You, Snake was seething, but Hausman went on nonchalantly. The nuclear strike will go forward as planned. The sea will take care of what little there is left. It's what the president wants. So this is an executive order. The presidency of the United States is a very, very busy job. Let's just say that I take full responsibility for this strike. How are you going to explain to the media why you dropped a nuke on American soil? Don't worry. There's a cover story already. A band of terrorists took over the Shadow Moses facility and were extremely careless with their nuclear missile. You'll be killing your own genome commandos, all the researchers too. Donald is already dead, Hausman suddenly said with genuine sorrow in his voice. So you didn't plan on killing the DARPA chief after all? Snake asked. He was my closest friend, and the rest of the poor bastards stranded here aren't, so to hell with them. Is that it? That depends. If you transfer the contents of the optical disc over to me, there may be room for a negotiation. What disc? Snake feigned ignorance, but Hausman was not so easily put off. The disc that contained the full exercise data. Donald was supposed to personally bring it back. I don't have it. That's unfortunate, Hausman said calmly. The fact remains that the two of you are a liability. You belong to an age no one cares to go back to, and you have the potential to needlessly embarrass this great nation. No, you cannot be permitted to ever leave that island. Take the time until the airstrike to catch up, then rest in peace. You are a ghost of the Cold War, after all. The transmission ended. Technically, I don't get why the dialogue is different with the different things being said, because, like, for example, he says, you two are an embarrassment from the 1970s. Like, why did they change the dialogue in here? Is it just for story reasons, or may it have to do with Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes? Anyway, quick water. We're getting there, though. We've almost hit page 300. I'm going to have to split this whole reading thing into parts now that I look at it. Anyway, so there's no way out for either of us. I heard Liquid laugh as he approached Snake. We'll settle the score before the cavalry arrives. Snake rose to his feet. You've taken everything from me, Liquid said, and I will reclaim it all, including my rightful biological inheritance, right here. The two snakes closed in one another. The final battle was about to begin. Snake and Liquid had engaged each other in a fierce hand-to-hand combat, but Richard had other things to attend to. He had one of his men open a radio channel. Yes, what is it? I realized with surprise that the person he had called was none other than the Secretary of Defense, Jim Hausman. I don't remember if it was Hausman or Huseman. An airstrike was an unwise decision. Richard sounded displeased. With a nuclear-armed stealth bomber airborne, a complete cover-up is no longer an option. They are not happy with this. It's the only way to destroy the evidence. The results will bear out the correctness of my decision. There will be no results. I've already aborted the airstrike. How dare you! Hausman started to roar, then suddenly petered out. He had no doubt remembered the powers that be that stood behind Richard. What do you intend to do then? He asked, with barely suppressed rage. There's another viable way to salvage the situation. Make me take the fall? I don't think so. Hausman's voice shook with fury. Richard sighed exaggerately. You don't think so? It seems, Mr. Secretary, that Colonel Campbell is not the only one who truly believed that he had any real say in this mission. What are you saying? I heard the sound of scuffling on the other hand. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Get your hands off me! Hausman had apparently been restrained. It was exactly the same scenario that had played out during Campbell's arrest. You have several choices, Richard explained with something resembling pity. It's up to you which ending this particular story has. I myself would suggest a quiet retirement from public life. You'll pay for this, Ames. I swear to God, Hausman spat out as he struggled vainly against his captors. Personally, I don't condone rough measures. I hope you'll come to the same decision. Richard ended the call. The transmission from Shadow Moses was still active. Liquid's dying scream tore through the speakers. Looks like things are wrapping up nicely over there, Richard murmured. Richard cleared all of the personnel out of the study. We were now alone. I could hear Snake and Merrill over the wires. It seemed that he had succeeded in rescuing her in time. Now the question is, what am I going to do with you? Richard said as he turned from the radio. The time had come for me to make my move. I walk up to my computer. This machine has been recording everything that went on in this study and relaying it out to a remote location. Once there, the data was immediately backed up on an optical disc. It was no bluff. It was just a more covert version of a real-time remote conferencing system. Because of my work, I frequently must acquire information from such unsavory types as black market arms dealer and mafia members who specialize in plutonium smuggling. The recordings were my standard insurance policy. I've already sent a message to the collection administrator. He'll give the disc to my media contact if he can't get in touch with me by a certain time. That had been the mail I'd secretly sent from my PDA earlier. If anything happens to me, the contents of the disc will be all over the world. But Richard was unfazed. I started to feel apprehensive as he calmly lit another cigarette. You mean this disc? He took out a shining optical disc from inside his jacket pocket and slid it into my PC's drive. A few quick clicks of the mouse and the playback started. I stared at the slightly grainy footage, horrified. The audio seemed overly loud in the silent room. You should be hearing from him soon. You're clear on how to use the radio? Richard's voice was raspy in playback, but it was definitely the data I had secretly collected and sent out. How? You shouldn't underestimate me, Richard said, as he ejected and pocketed the disc. Everything in this house has been vented and monitored since the operation started. Nothing got in or out without my knowing about it, including electronic signals. That email you sent from the bathroom never got to its destination. He'd seen right through me. With that realization, I felt strength leaving my body. The game was up. But even if you've managed to get this data out to the world, that wouldn't have guaranteed your safety. No one would have believed yet another conspiracy theory. Least of all the press. Your people would have made sure of that, I'm sure. Instead of answering, Richard stubbed out his cigarette and slid his right hand inside his jacket. There was an awkward bulge there in that clean line of his tailored jacket. It was where he kept his gun holstered. Cold sweat trickled down my back. I was slowly backing away from Richard, and I did not even realize the fact until my back hit the wall. There was no way out. Are you really prepared to kill me? I could not hide the tremor in my voice. You should know the answer to that, he said quietly, looking me straight in the eye. Then he pulled his hand out from under his jacket, and I instinctively shut my eyes. But even after what felt like an eternity, the muffled shot and the pain I was expecting did not come. I wearily opened my eyes and saw what was in his hand. It was not a gun, but a disc. Everything you ever wanted to know about Foxdie. Richard walked up to me and placed the disc in my hand. As I said, a recording of what took place in this room won't guarantee your safety. There's no solid proof. Just talk. It can easily be denounced as a fabrication and covered up. But the Foxdie data is a different story, he continued. This disc contains everything about that project, from its origins to the names of every individual involved. As long as you have this as an insurance, they won't be able to touch you. Why, Richard? He did not answer my question. You better get out of here quickly. Your car's just out back. What about you? That's not something you need to worry about. But you don't need me, Nastasha, and I have things to take care of. Why are you doing this? I asked again. You'll figure it out someday. Do what you have to do, all right? He suddenly held me close and put his lips on mine. As we broke apart after a long kiss, he whispered in my ear, I wanted to do this again, just one last time. Then he gently eased me away. Now go, hurry. There was gravity in his voice that allowed only one response. I nodded and sped out of the room. That was the last I ever saw of Richard Ames. After I fled from California, I went into hiding. There has been no sign of pursuit for now. The terrorist incident on Shadow Moses Island came to a conclusion with the destruction of Metal Gear and the death of Liquid Snake. The United States government, however, has not yet officially acknowledged the incident. The roster of the dead included Liquid Snake, Psycho Mantis, Sniper Wolf, Decoy Octopus, and Vulcan Raven. Revolver Ocelot's body was never recovered, but his personal file was closed with the notation missing in action. Foxhound had, in effect, been decimated. The survivors from the Next Generation Commando Unit were all removed to the Pease AFB in New Hampshire, ostensibly for training. As far as I know, they remain prisoners there to this day. The government has repeatedly denied allegations of genetically engineering super soldiers, but rumors that the research continues remain persistent. The deaths of Donald Anderson, the DARPA chief, and Kenneth Baker of Arms Tech ended the development of a new Metal Gear. The Metal Gear Rex unit itself had been all but completed under Hal Emmerich's leadership. But my source at Lawrence Livermore indicated that the railgun warhead delivery system had not been fully operational. Apparently, there had been some serious issues with the railgun's targeting accuracy. This was no doubt the reason Baker had entrusted Snake with the exercise data, and Jim Hausman, the Secretary of Defense, had so aggressively pursued its whereabouts. The data is now lost, and the development program had been closed down. I dared to dream that the new nuclear delivery system will never see the light of day. A few days after the incident, I heard on the news that Hausman had shot himself. The suicide was a tribute to a temporary nervous breakdown related to job stress. Supporting statements from family and subordinates were widely aired. The airstrike order for Shadow Moses was glossed over as an unfortunate evidence of the late Defense Secretary's unraveling mental state. I remember Hausman's words from the final hours of the mission, and thought I knew what had really happened. He had refused to take the fall, and paid for the defiance with his life. The record of the Shadow Moses incident and the FoxDie data disk that Richard gave me are still under my vigilant guard. The FoxDie program data covers Naomi's careful analysis of the unauthorized reconfiguration she had made to the virus. The information showed that Snake was indeed one of the targets for the deadly retrovirus, but the incubation period had been changed to a wildcard value. Even Naomi herself did not know when the virus would awaken within Snake. It must have been the best revenge she could think of, condemning him to live in this fearful limbo. Colonel Roy Campbell was released after the Defense Secretary's own arrest, and is once again enjoying his retirement. Mei Ling also made it safely out of the mission and is back in the academia. Dr. Hal Emmerich did not return to Armstech following his rescue from Shadow Moses. His whereabouts are unknown, but there is some indication that he made his way to England where he has family members. Snake and Merrill appeared to have successfully made it off Shadow Moses. I could, however, find no trace of them. I hope that the same is true for those who have had an interest in seeing them silenced. Naomi Hunter was formally taken into custody after the incident's conclusion. 3 weeks later, as she was undergoing debriefing in a certain facility, she escaped. She has not been heard of since. Officials were closed-mouthed about the circumstances of the escape, but inquiries into other quarters elicited the fact that someone had broken Naomi out of the base. I knew of only one person who could have breached the base tight security and successfully led someone to freedom. And then there was the matter of Richard Ames. I called in a favor and had an inquiry made to get the DIA about one of Major Richard Ames. The agency's response was that there was no DIA personnel fitting that name and description. Buying my safety and freedom had been a costly act for Richard. It was then that I decided to go public with what I knew. By exposing the conspiracy, I may be putting myself in renewed danger, but I am through with being a spectator, an objective bystander. The powerlessness I felt watching Snake's solitary war on Shadow Moses has been a bitter wake-up call. This time, I am determined to make a stand. This is my war now, to tell the truth about what happened on that island. That is my responsibility and privilege as a survivor, and a cause for which I am prepared to give my life. That is it. Oh, I am so lightheaded from all of that. I don't remember if I said this at the start of the video, or I'm going to get confused with the fact I have to split these, but as I was reading the rest of that, on page 126 where I stopped, it had been like a week until I decided to record and finish it. Oh! So, out of curiosity, I have the Metal Gear Wiki with me because I got to use it for something else. I need to know, just out of curiosity, if Nastasha is still around or not. Let's see. Here we are. Nastasha. Let's see. She was only in Metal Gear Solid, save for her being mentioned in here. That sounded like a phone going off. Was that my phone? I don't think that was my phone. Shadow Moses. Post Shadow Moses. Let's see. So, In the Darkness. Oh! So just in case if you want to know, because I don't think this will get acknowledged later in the series when we get to later, but according to what I'm seeing here, Nastasha was successful in publishing the book, and she donated the royalties to help Snake and Otacon fund philanthropy. And afterwards, she disappeared for quite a while. Not even Snake knew where she was. And then I'm not sure if this regards to Metal Gear Solid 4, or it does. So I'm gonna have to stop there. I don't want to give away anything regarding Metal Gear Solid 4. So that is it, though. And by that is it with the reading. I'm not gonna do any more reading, at least not yet. That will do for this episode of Metal Gear Solid 2. We have one thing left to do. Just wanted to do that for fun. Join me next time as I talk about the game's development history. This game went through a very interesting development history in regards of what they had in mind, what they had to change, and a lot of other things that did or did not make it. It's really, really cool. So that is it, and I will see you guys next time. And also, sorry for the long reading. Very sorry if I put you to sleep at all. I'd put myself to sleep for all I know.